Hello and welcome. Today I'm joined by Prav Mathema, who is the Welsh Rugby Union National Medical Manager. So thank you, Prav.
Thanks for inviting as well to come on. It's been I know it's been a while trying to get it organised, but yeah, it's been a busy summer, so I'm delighted to be on board now.
Yeah, well, hopefully I will take priority over the Lions tour at some point, but maybe not for a few years yet.
Yeah.
So just starting off, whereabouts are you from originally?
Well, originally I'm actually from Kathmandu in Nepal, so I was born there. I'll say the 70s, in the 70s. I'll just say that, so people can't work out my actual age. But yeah, I was born there, and then my parents decided to relocate just to give me and my brother a better life, really, in the UK, and then relocated down to Kent. So was down here then for all my schooling and stuff. So yeah, so started off out in the Himalayas. So.
Right. Well, yeah, I've always fancied doing with the classic Everest base camp, that sort of thing. But what's it like? How old were you when you moved over to?
I was very young. I was very young. I was 2.5 years old. So yeah. So my father was in the Gurkhas, and then decided to relocate. So it worked out. Worked out for us. We got our residency, as it were. And came across, and yeah, obviously, been here ever since.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, no, definitely Kathmandu is on the list of places I'd like to go to. So then, what was it like in terms of growing up there? Did you always have a vision that you wanted to get into the medical arena?
No, not at all. Not at all, actually. As all these things, transpire when you're younger. I never thought that I would be doing what I'm doing. When I was at school. So I was always into sport. Certainly. I played rugby. When I was younger, played football. Load of different sports. Just love every sport, really. And then we were in at my school. Sorry, we was always encouraged to do the subjects that you enjoy most. So when I did my A levels, I actually did a very random, selection of A levels, which was biology and sports science, which kind of went together, and then design and technology, which just completely doesn't go at all, and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do at that stage. Architecture was always something that I was involved, wanted to get involved in, but I clearly had all the wrong kind of, A levels for that, and yeah, physio just came up really, as in conversation and stuff like that. And my sixth form kind of headmaster or sixth form tutors basically said, look, I'll help you with your applications and stuff. So we put together our applications for physio school, and it was back then it was UCAS, and it was it still is UCAS, but it's eight unis and stuff like that. And I thought I'd got all the grades I needed and stuff like that. And as it happened, I only got one offer, from out of 8. So I was, flying by the seat of my pants. Let's put it that way, and I was definitely twitching, So it was fairly nervous, if I'm honest, And we, did my A levels, and managed to get the grades that I needed for that university, which was Brunel University at the time, and it was. It was incredible, actually, at that university. I have to say, I really enjoyed my time there and made some incredible friends, as well.
So was that it was enjoyable in terms of the course and the experience, or what was it?
18 years old, pocket full of student loan, so it was awesome from that perspective. We had an incredible social time there, of course. At uni, it was actually very tough, for me personally, because I found it very hard. Actually, I thought my A levels were the hardest things I'd ever do, but then I went and did my undergraduate, and I just thought, this is insane. How difficult it is. In my first year, certainly. But knuckled down, and it was worked out okay. And like I say, made some great friends along the way as well, and couple of guys, who have done really well as well, and they've one guy's working with England now, England Rugby. He's one of the senior physios there, chap called Bobby Salbats, and he's done really well there. And there's a couple other guys working in golf, etc. as well, from my year group. So it was a great time.
Why do you think that is then? So it's quite interesting that you've had some people that have gone on to, certainly Bobby working for the England team in rugby. Do you think that was something that you that was because you were all together and you had that mentality, or why?
I don't really know like how that happened, or why that happened. Obviously Brunel University was, it's very heavily sports focused, and it's always been, that way. Whether it was that or not, I don't really know, or whether it was just kind of an organic transition, through work. One of my colleagues at Wales, it's ironic actually. One of my colleagues at Wales, he's one of the senior physios with the national team. He had a very similar kind of experience with his group at Southampton, his class group. One guy's working for the Auckland Blues, one guy's working at Red Bull, F1 racing. One guy's working at Southampton, a football club. So I don't really know how that happened, or why it happened. Or I don't know if it was a conscious effort, that everyone did that or not. But yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it just happens that way. And in terms of the course, then, was there ever a point, like you said, the first year was difficult, that you thought maybe this wasn't the right thing to be doing?
There was actually. It's funny enough you say that, because I got into my second year, and it was. I actually got to a point where I thought, I don't think this is for me anymore. I'm not sure if this is the right thing to do. And I had a good chat actually with a couple of my my kind of like placement mentors, if you like, and they were brilliant actually. Just told me to stick with it, and obviously did. And I'm really pleased that I did, because otherwise wouldn't have, been able to have the kind of the career I've got now, and obviously helps me support my family as well, which is, really important to me. So
definitely, yeah. So was that down to just it being difficult, or you just maybe thinking design and technology maybe should have been the route you'd actually gone?
I should have done physics and maths, you see, that's what it should have been as well. But those two subjects were way too difficult for me, But no, it was just, it was the sheer volume of work at university, and, I just thought, I'm not sure if this is the right thing, or not, But like I say, we had a good mentor, at that time, give us a kick out the backside, and just knuckled down really, and just did my uni my last year, and did okay, so.
Yeah. And you mentioned the placements that you went on. So how were they chosen?
Oh, they were all just chosen by the university. I mean, obviously you have to cover all your kind of all the disciplines, as it were, So, and we were placed kind of all over the place, all over London, and it was mainly, it was all London actually, mine, and yeah, it was just literally just, you just had to make sure you covered off every single aspect, and yeah, like I say, I was very lucky to have some great people look after us.
Yeah, I mean, so I did sports science, but I was at MMU, but we went to like the Alsager campus, which is like living in the countryside basically, which is great. We had a great time. But how was it like growing up in London, like when you were actually at university there? I'm not sure I would have had the maturity to have been able to deal with Manchester, let alone London.
We were kind of out the way. We were out in Osterley, campus, between Osterley and kind of Hounslow way. So we weren't kind of in the mix. It was a fair old trek into town, and but it was very social. Let's put it that way, And we had great opportunities to, go into town and stuff like that, and a couple of guys would be very unfortunate and have to, and would wake up, at Heathrow Airport, because it's a few stops down, go to sleep, wake up on a bench in Heathrow Airport or something like that, But no, it was social enough, for sure. It was great from that perspective.
So once you graduated, then did you have an idea of where you were going to go on to there? What happened after graduation?
Yeah, I mean, because I was lucky enough to do a couple of, I did more than two. I think I did 3 or maybe even 4 placements at St. George's Hospital. I always wanted to go back to St. George's Hospital, and I always thought to myself, I got to go back to this teaching hospital, because it's a great hospital. I'm going to learn loads and, go from there, But I was unsuccessful in my first round of applications. So I went back home to Kent. So the hospital in Margate, where I was there for about 10 months maybe or so, and then another opportunity came to reapply for some positions at St. George's Hospital, and I was successful at that time. So then I moved up to St. George's and got started there really, and had a 6-month period there where I did neurology, which I loved. There was a lot of rehab, obviously, and you can make a real positive change, to people's lives, So that was brilliant. And then I was going to be going on to medical, but then opportunities came up in sport then after that, really. But it was brilliant for me, to get into St George's Hospital, because that was my ultimate goal, but yeah, things change as they do in life, and you either take the opportunities or you don't, and my direction went into sport, but it was never my intention to focus on sport. It was maybe to get into private practice, etc. So
yeah, how did that happen then? How did that transition into sport happen?
Well, it was very lucky. Let's put it that way. It was very, very lucky for me, and it's people use the term sink or swim, quite a lot, and I was definitely thrown in at the deep end, because I didn't have a clue about sports physio at all at that point, But I was very youngster. I think I was 21 at the time. 21, sorry, I was, and I'd heard that one of my colleagues who I was at university with had been offered a position at QPR Football Club. So I rang them to congratulate them, and he actually said, "Oh, look, there's another job as well. Would you like to come with me?" And I was like, "Okay, let me think about it, And so it was crazy. I was just like, yeah, okay. Do you mean, like, why not? Let's do it, And as it happened, he didn't take the position, which was the head of academy at QPR. So then QPR then said to me, would I like to take the head position at academy, So I was really unsure at that point, So one of my very good friends actually played for QPR as well. So it was fate beyond belief. So I rang him just to say, look, I've been offered this position, QPR, and he'd left QPR maybe 10 years before, and hadn't gone to a match for ages and stuff like that. And I rang him and I just said, listen, I've been offered this position. What do you think? And he said, you will not believe where I am right now. He was at Loftus Road watching a match. QPR, I don't know who they were playing. I was like, I've got to take the job. You know what I mean? So then I took the position, things just obviously went snowballed from there.
So what going in as a 21-year-old into this head of position, like, what do you even do on the first day?
Panic. Do a lot of reading, I did a lot of reading, beforehand, and I just had to be myself, really. That's what I could be, as myself. So and yeah, I was incredibly green. There's obviously incredibly green. At that point, and just had my eyes open and said, right, I just got to try and learn as much as I can, and and hope for the best. Really, and I hope I don't break anyone too badly. At that point, but I was always just trying to do my best. And just learning from errors, like you do, like everybody does, really. So yeah.
And then so what happened? Like, how long were you doing in that position for?
Yeah, so I did that for a couple of years. Jerry Francis was the manager at that point, and then Ian Holloway came in. So we got relegated actually from the relegated that year. I think we did get relegated that year, and then we went down to League One. And then Ian Holloway came in as manager, and he said, look, he'd like me to stay on, but this time to be the head of medical services at QPR. And at this point, again, I was like, oh, what do I do here now? I'm 23 years old. I've been offered a head of medical position. I think at that point, it would have been the youngest, head of medical in the Football League, didn't really know much, but had a good relationship with Ollie, and he wanted us there, and had a good relationship with the players as well. So I said, let's go for it, let's do it, and did that position then after being 2 years as the academy physio, head of academy physio. I took up that role, really, and just employed a couple of extra people, to come on board with us. And things thankfully went pretty well. I had a good relationship with the players, and just did the best I could, for them, and I think they could see that, and just hopefully delivered, as well as I could have done. Obviously, still making errors, being so young, and yeah, did continued in that role for another 6 years, really. So I did 8 years at QPR all told, So it was. Right. It was a great experience, some wonderful people that that I work with, some wonderful players as well that I work with, you know, and essentially that gave me the kind of springboard to get into rugby, because Chris Wright was the owner of Queen's Park Rangers and London Wasps at the time, and obviously there was a shared match venue, which was Loftus Road at the time, and then eventually London Wasps came to Twyford Avenue, where QPR trained. So it was just a shared training facility, which was that was an incredible experience, I have to say. You know, having two sports on site, we had a shared gym, we had shared dining facilities, shared treatment room. So we had a 10-bedded treatment unit, you know, and it was incredible banter in there. You know, it's so different, the banter as well, obviously from rugby and football and stuff like that. And everyone was mixing, and it was brilliant. You know, you had the rugby lads, you know, looking over at us, you know, playing football, tennis, you know, and doing like 40 minutes of training for the day, and then leaving. You know, these lads are smashing each other, you know, in training, you know. So, you know, they certainly thought that we had it very, very easy. But ultimately, that was the springboard then after QPR to get into rugby union, you know. So
yeah, God, that is like a perfect storm for it as well.
Yeah.
But yes, what was it Ian Holloway like then? He's obviously a character.
He is a great character, and you know, he's a great man, you know, first and foremost, you know, and you know, he was quite a young manager at that time as well. But you know, we all had a great relationship, you know, and you know, incredibly honest man, you know, as well. You know, people know that, you know, that his circumstances at home and stuff like that were very challenging. You know, with his 3 out of 4 of his children were hearing impaired. You know, and they that's, you know, widely in the media, and the you know, he went through lots of different challenges as well. So a really inspirational man, I have to say, you know, and he was great to work for, you know, great to work for. Allowed you to just get on with your job, you know, trusted us, you know, first and foremost, you know, which was great, you know, but also, like you say, a great character, you know, on and off kind of the training park, you know. So
Yeah, I can imagine. So when were you at QPR then, with the first team? What years were they?
2000 and what would it have been, 1-2, I think, and then I joined Wasps in 2007. Then, so it would have been about, from the first team, it would have been around about 1-2, I think.
Right.
It was. And we got
that was an interesting period for the club. We've seen some of the documentaries. So were you there when like the Briatore and?
No, it was just before then. But what
Right.
we did have was we had a lot of dramas. Let's call it that. You know, at executive level, a lot of dramas. You know, and there was. You know, we went through when Ollie took over. You know, we went into administration. We had like 7 pro players at one point. You know, and it was really challenging. You know, and Ollie, to be fair, you know, and the coaching team and the people that they brought in and stuff like that took us, you know, from League One and got us promoted, you know, to the Championship, which was incredible. We played Sheffield Wednesday away, and I remember it, you know, really clearly, because I remember the kind of pre-match meeting that we always had at the hotel, you know, before leaving. Ollie decided to bring in the supporters, you know. Everyone was like, what is going on, you know? So, and he got some guys to speak, you know, and just about their passion about the club, and it was an incredible thing to do, you know, and not many people would have done that, you know. And we went from there then, and we obviously won the match then, and you know, had some incredible times there, and then, you know, we just we went through a very interesting time with regards to you know, fixtures, managers, you know, executives and stuff like that. And then, like I said, I got out just before then, you know, people like, you know, Briatore and people like that came in, you know, at the very top, you know. So
yeah, no, certainly it does seem to have had a lot of interesting times at QPR, but yeah, really good club.
Really it's an awesome club.
Yeah, so in terms of that the time at Wasps then, how did that come about, that particular role?
Well, because we had a shared training facility, obviously knew a lot of the senior players, knew the existing head of medical services, and then I'll never forget it. I was sat on the team bus. We were for QPR now, and we were going up to, I think it was Swindon away or something like that, and got a phone call, you know, and I was sat next to the gaffer at the time, and it was the CEO of Wasps, ring to say, listen, we'd like to have a conversation about you taking over the and I was like, those ones when you like turn the sound down really quickly. I was like, I'll call you back when we get to Swindon. It's like, oh. So then, I had a conversation with him, and offered us a position. I said, okay, obviously I had to have some discussions around what that role looked like and stuff like that. I had to meet the manager at the time there as well, which was Suri McGeechan. What Warren had already left at that point. And so it was Geach that actually invited us. So senior players had spoken, and the current head of medical said, look, why don't you ask Prav, it'd be someone good, in the environment and stuff. So that's what happened really. And then my transition was made then in at the end of the 2006-07 season in football, and joined Wasps, and they obviously they were flying, at that time as well. They were, under Gats, in 2003-04, that kind of era, they'd done doubles, they were just prolific, got to the semi-final, not to the semi-final, sorry, they got to the final of the Heineken Cup, European Cup, in the 6-7 season, won that, and then I started in the 7-8 season, and that again had its sink or swim kind of like feeling around it, because I'd had 8 years treating basically the belly button down, so I hadn't seen anything from like the thoracic spine up, really, someone with a bit of a sore neck here and there, but nothing like what you get to actually see, some of the trauma that you see in rugby union, it was again, a lot of reading very quickly, making sure that, had 2 long-term injured guys straight off the bat, had a decent ACL and an AC reconstruction. I was thinking, AC reconstruction, wow, I've never seen one of those, so, and I'm going to the top club in England, so it was, just thinking, and again, just doing the best, that you can really. So, and thankfully both guys did really well, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so was that the sort of challenge that you wanted to take on in terms of moving disciplines?
Not really, it was just an opportunity that came up, so, and it was like, okay, I've done this now for 8 years in football. I can move football clubs if they wanted something different, but I just thought, what, rugby has always been the sport that I'd followed, the most, it's a sport that I played when I was younger as well, and just thought, what, let's go for it, let's go for it, great club as well, incredible club, to work for, obviously very successful during that period. So, it was, it was a case of let's just do it, so.
Yeah, and how was it? Did you still have a shared facility at that point, or had you moved?
So what happened was we left there and went to, QPR left 2 years before and went out to Harlington, out by Heathrow Airport, which is where Chelsea used to train before they were in Cobham. So QPR took over that facility. So we'd left at that point. So anyway, we were back then, and it was solely solely London Wasps at that point. So it was like I said, it was old school facility. Let's call it that. But it was a great club.
Yeah, you might have got a bit of stick if it had been a joint one still with the QPR guys.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. They definitely would have done. Yeah.
So how long were you at Wasps for?
I was there for I was there for exactly 3.5 years. So I joined in the 7-8 season. We were really fortunate. I say fortunate, no, obviously, a little bit of fortune maybe with some of that fixtures and stuff like that. But we won the grand final there that year at Twickenham. We played Leicester in the final, and we were successful. And then I left there in the kind of the February, actually it was February of 2011. And that's when I had an amazing opportunity after being at Wasps for kind of a year or so. Geach had been asked to do the British and Irish Lions tour as the head coach for the 2009 tour. So, there was a lot of the senior players were kind of saying to Geach, look, you need to take Prav, as well as, as one of the therapists, on tour and stuff like that. So that actually did come about in the end. I met up with Dr. James Robson, who was the head of medical services for the tour for 2009, came down to the training facility. We met, and I was offered the opportunity, which was incredible, given the opportunity. And I was really thankful for it, because, people would have seen like the '97 tour, you know, living with the Lions behind the scene thing, and it looks incredible. It's an incredible thing to be involved in, you know, and that was my first taste of it, as it were, you know, and I was, you know, forever grateful to Geach and for James Robson for giving me that opportunity in 2009. And it was very daunting, you know, because again, sink or swim moment, you know, rock up. I'm the only person that's not done international rugby. So I've come from club rugby, you know, and they're all these international superstars, you know, from the game, but also all of these, you know, coaches, you know, therapists, you know, trainers, analysts, you know, all in the international arena, you know, and it was great to be involved in, you know, you know, and that ultimately then gave me the opportunity, because there were a number of people there that were obviously at Wales, Warren Gatland obviously being the primary person, and at the time Craig White, who was head of performance at Wales, he was also on the Lions tour, invited me then to, you know, come and join Wales, really, and that was following the 2009 tour, you know. So yeah.
And what was the 2009 tour like then?
It was, you know, for me, it was being a little bit like a competition winner, you know, as it were, you know, being really green, fresh on tour, but again, always doing the best, you know, that you can for the players, you know, always making sure you take the opportunities, you know. And we did a lot of touring, you know, like true touring, if you like, you know. Every place we went, there were various events, you know. We had loads of social engagement as well, which is always a key thing with the British and Irish Lions. We had a lot of fun, you know, but ultimately, you know, it was, you know, a very, very brutal tour. You know, those that watch a second test match will know how brutal that was. You know, we had a number of very big injuries, and ultimately we lost the series, you know, in that game as well, you know. And it's hard, you know, when you work in sport, you work in sport to win. You know, people that work in sport that say they do it for the love of the game and stuff like that, they're lying. You know, you do it to win, you know, basically, you know, at the very top end of the game, you know, it's all about that, you know, and making sure, obviously, we do it safely, you know, for our athletes, but ultimately it's about winning. And unfortunately, we didn't win, you know, so that was pretty hard, you know, from that perspective. The good thing was that in test number 3, we put on a really good performance, you know, and it was a game that we won really well and played really well, and it gave them the opportunity for those going then in 2013 then to have some kind of momentum, if you like, you know, going into that tour in Australia.
Yeah, no, I can imagine it is an amazing experience on doing that. So after you've done that, so you're going to move over to Wales. So is that something where you had to relocate for that?
Yeah. So what happened was I was living in London at the time, and we went across midway through the Six Nations, and it was myself and my wife relocated, and I mean, we joined halfway through the Six Nations. It wasn't a particularly successful Six Nations from recollection, but then we had the 2011 World Cup then in New Zealand, you know, where we got to the semi-final, you know, and people remember, you know, how that turned out, you know, that we had, you know, Sam Warburton get sent off very early on, and we had a fantastic opportunity to win that game, but we didn't take it, you know, unfortunately. And you know, it was a successful, you know, still a successful, you know, World Cup. You know, no one, I don't think, you know, thought that we would get that far, you know, so for a small country like Wales, but yeah, it was an incredible experience, you know. Again, true touring again, you know, going to countries, having social engagements, you know, being able to see, you know, the country, you know, and also play some good rugby as well, you know. So it was great to be able to do that, you know, in 2011. And then the journey through Wales, you know, has been a fairly successful one, I would like to say. You know, I'd like to think so. You know, we've won a lot of trophies, you know, in the last 10 years, certainly, you know, and it's been amazing to be a part of.
And what was the dynamic like when you moved from club rugby into international? How did that change things?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, the Welsh people, you know, were brilliant. You know, everybody I worked with were incredible individuals. You know, and they were very welcoming, which made life very, very easy, and it made some lifelong friends there as well, you know. And it does make it a lot easier to have that transition then. We didn't have any children at that point, so it was made a lot easier from that perspective. Also, the role was very different as well. So, you know, we've gone from being a head of medical services at a club to head of medical services of a country, you know, is totally different. You know, you're having to look after not just the team of players that you look after, i.e. the national team, but then there's also then the very, very significant governance role, which looks after the whole game, you know, across the professional down to the community game, you know. So that was something that, again, another sink or swim moment. I had a few of those in my career actually, and had to deliver, you know, on that side of things, you know, as well. And you know, hopefully, you know, we've delivered a lot, you know, in the last 10 years, and we've developed a lot in the last 10 years from a medicine player welfare perspective, you know, within Wales.
Yeah, and also you've worked with some absolute iconic managers, coaches, and so on. Like, what's it been like working with Warren Gatland and Ian McGeechan, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, those guys have been brilliant, you know, to work with and for, you know, because ultimately they allow you to, like, well, to give you ownership basically of your department, and you just get on with it, you know, and they trust you. So, you know, if there's a decision to be made on a player, and they just say, yeah, okay, fine, you know, don't put an undue pressure on. If there is you know, sometimes if there is a discussion to be had, then we'll have a frank discussion, stuff like that. But, you know, again, you know, those guys, you know, have always given ownership of departments to those teams, you know, whether it's strength and conditioning, analysis, you know, whatever it may be, you know, the ownership has always been given to those heads of department to manage appropriately, you know. And that's been really, really kind of telling, really, if you like, in the success, not just on the pitch but off the pitch as well. You know, everyone gets on really, really well. We're very fortunate in Wales. We have a really, really strong bond, you know, off the field as well, you know, and it's great, you know, and it's great because also it helps that every day we come to work to the National Centre of Excellence within at the Vale Hotel, which is just outside of Cardiff, and you know, everybody comes there every day, you know, on an international level. That doesn't happen really, you know, very often at many facilities, because let's say, for argument's sake, in England, you know, geographically it may not be possible to come to work every day. In Wales, we're very fortunate that you can do that, you know. So yeah, so from that perspective, you know, it's been great, you know. And I say going back to your question around the managers and stuff, it's always great, you know, to be in a team, you know, that's being successful, you know, and that helps for sure, you know, with you know, with the environment, if you like.
Yeah, I mean, the Vale's quite an interesting place in that you've got the Cardiff, the football and the rugby guys all in close proximity. How does that work as a dynamic? Do you have much involvement with any of them?
Yeah, so what's actually happened now is Cardiff Rugby have now subsequently moved out. Now, Football Association Wales have now moved in. So we've got two both the headquarters of both governing bodies, if you like, are on site from a performance perspective. And we've still got Cardiff City Football Club there as well. So, you know, I liaise, you know, a lot with Sean Connolly, you know, at the FAW, and you know, we share a lot of learnings and experiences, you know, through various competitions and, you know, various bits of governance, especially around COVID of recent note. You know, that's been really tricky, you know, for all of us. And what's been brilliant about COVID is that everyone has been really open to sharing, you know, whereas in the past, you know, people may have been a bit more kind of secretive, if you like, or whatever, you know. But you know, certainly with COVID, everyone's been very open to sharing, and across sports, across, you know, countries and stuff like that as well. You know, globally, obviously, it's hit everybody, so everyone's been really open with that. But yeah, on site, it's great to have both national governing bodies on site.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And in terms of football, lads, there's been a lot of things in the press about concussion and heading the ball, and you know, whether or not to remove that, which might be challenging. But rugby, that's prevalent in terms of concussions and so on. What are your thoughts in terms of managing that in sport in general?
Oh, look, I mean, concussion is a huge part of our sport, certainly, and I can really only speak for our sport, you know, because that's obviously what my focus, as it were. What we do know about concussion is that it's something that we see the most of, so the incidence is the highest, the highest injury, that we see across the board. And, it's something that, puts people out of sport for a number of days, weeks, sometimes months, so it's something that we take incredibly seriously. It's our number one focus when it comes to kind of our player welfare management. And look, we never ever stop with regards to learning, developing, and growing. And there is a huge amount of research that goes on, behind the scenes. There's a huge amount of processes that we try and support our players, to the best that we can, And like I say, the rugby family, across the world looks at concussion, especially, incredibly seriously, and we put a lot into it, not just with regards to preventing, but also post-care and post-career care as well. There's a lot of work going on within that. Within rugby, we have, it's well documented, we have an HIA process as well, which allows us to assess our players off the field of play. We've got a 12-minute kind of period where we can really look at our guys, look at videos, look at various different assessments. That's in game, and then the HIA process is actually made up of 3 HIAs. So HIA 1 in game, HIA 2 post game, then HIA 3 2 days after that. So that's just making sure that we don't let anybody slip through the net, with regards to diagnosing concussion. And then obviously we're managing guys, appropriately going through the graduated return to play. And that's another huge piece of work that we're looking at the moment, and looking at kind of all the metrics around that, and looking at how we can really make that as robust as possible, for our guys. So we're not allowing people to go back too early, but also conversely, we're not being too kind of cautious as well, that we're being appropriate with our management. That's the key thing, I think, there, So going back to what you said, with regards to concussion, it's a huge subject. It's a huge subject for us, and something that I'm really passionate about. And it's something that we're always driving and always striving to get better at every single time. We're never ever happy, with regards to not just concussion management, but any player welfare management system. We're never happy with just standing still. We're always looking to develop and drive things, forwards.
Yeah. Back to that reading thing again, isn't it, from what you do at the start of those as well. And so this will be a difficult question, but are there any particular moment or moments that you've had throughout your career that you think that was just really absolutely memorable?
Oof. Oh, that's a hard one, that. So there's one that sticks out. Well, there's a few that stick out. I would say a few that stick out. So going back to football, when we got promoted, no one gave us a chance. No one gave us a chance that year. And we went up, on merit. We went up automatically, because the year before we played Cardiff in the Millennium Stadium, now the Principality Stadium, which is obviously our home of Welsh rugby, when Wembley was getting redone. And we played Cardiff in the playoff finals and lost. And then subsequently, we got through second place. Plymouth went up that year, but that was incredible. I was really young at that point as well, and going on an open top bus through Shepherd's Bush, and we hadn't even won the league. We just got promoted, but there were hundreds of thousands of people out. That was incredible moment, to be part of. Rugby wise, then things that stick out. Obviously, winning the grand final with Wasps was an amazing experience. All the Lions tours and stuff are amazing. 2013, winning a Lions tour with obviously with the Lions in Sydney was incredible, and we won comfortably as well in that game, which was insane. But the key moment for me, I think, and a lot of people, I think, will say the same. Was in 2013 in the Six Nations. And a lot of people who are involved in that game will say this as well. We come off the back of a run of, I think, 8 losses or something like that. It was a record loss run or something like that, And Rob Howley was under pressure, and we were all under pressure, because we all feel that, because Warren Gatland had been seconded for the Lions that year, so Rob was essentially interim head coach for that year. We had to win the next game, which was France away, and we did, and it was incredible. And then we had our run of games, and we got to the final weekend, and England were going for a Grand Slam, and they were coming to us at our place. and they needed to win by they needed to win by 7, and they won a Grand Slam basically. Oh, sorry, yes, they need to win by. They just needed to win, sorry, then they would have had won a Grand Slam, or we needed to beat them by 7 or more, and then we would have won the championship. So it was incredible, you know. It was basically like it was a cup final basically, you know. And then we got to that, and we got there, and the decision was made to close the roof. It's never a great decision to close the roof for an incoming team, you know, at our place, because it's really loud, you know. I never forget it, because the away national anthem, which was the English national anthem, was sung. I've never heard it that loud before, even at Twickenham, you know. And I was like, oh, we're in trouble here, you know. So and then the Welsh national anthem came on, and like, I've actually got the hairs in the back of my neck are up right now, because it was an incredible thing, you know, to witness. You know, it was so loud, you know. And that game, then we won by a record margin of 30 points to 3, and we won the championship. You know, where it was all against the odds. You know, we were never ever thought that, you know, that having come off the back of eight matches, you know, on that run, you know. And we've got to remember, in 2012 we were Grand Slam winners as well, so we hadn't suddenly become a really terrible team. Having clicked, you know, for whatever reason, but then we went on a run of 4 wins and won the championship, and it was the loudest I've ever heard that stadium. You know, you couldn't, you know, shouting to players, you know, they just couldn't hear. You know, I mean, like they just, you know, it was an incredible thing, you know, to be involved in. So that would be my most memorable moment, I would say, you know, within the sport. You know, we certainly enjoyed ourselves, you know, that day. And
I can imagine
the next couple of days, you know. So
yeah, no, I can only imagine what that would be like. That's be spectacular to be in the stadium, and obviously invested in that as well. And on the same line, then, so in terms of people that you've come across that have had a particular impact on you or influence, are there any ones that you'd particularly point out?
Oh, look, I always say it, you know, is that my father obviously has had a massive influence in my life, let alone my career, you know. But you know, so I have to make a special mention, you know, to him for sure. You know, the sacrifices that he gave to come to the UK, to allow us, you know, to do what we did growing up, you know, and get into, you know, school and university, and then subsequently, you know, get into sport and support us, you know. And he continually supports us now as well, you know. So that certainly, you know, is key, you know, been a key, you know, figure in my career for sure, you know. And obviously all of my managers as well, you know, who have been instrumental in just allowing us to work, you know, work away and not, you know, put us under undue pressure, you know. And, you know, they've been brilliant. You know, every single manager I've had, you know, it's been really, really brilliant, you know, allowing us, you know, as a team just to get on with kind of the job and deliver, really, you know. So that they would be the key people, I'd say.
Yeah. No, very good. No, well, genuinely, I've got loads of clips that I want to cut out of this one. So, no, I really appreciate your time on this. It's been great catching up, and yeah, thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to catching up with you soon.
No worries at all. No, awesome.
Appreciate that. Thanks, Prav.
No worries. Cheers.